Warning, the following podcast has been classified as insanely lucrative. Listener discretion is advised.
And Will said, well, Manny, we can do it with less than a year of history. Remember that? I was like, what?
Your attention, please. Listening to the AM/PM podcast may cause recurring revenue streams and unfair advantages over your competitors. Other side effects may include fatter wallets, fired bosses, and longer vacations. Listen at your own risk. Here's your host, seven-figure entrepreneur and online marketing madman, Manny Coats. Manny Coats.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the AM/PM podcast. My name is Manny Coats, and I will be your host, and this is the show where we talk about Amazon private label and how to generate recurring revenue streams 24 hours per day during the AM and the PM, hence the name of the show, AM/PM podcast. As a matter of fact, one of my new SKUs, new products, just came in the mail. I had my supplier send them out to me. Actually, I had them send out about 4 units of each so that I could send it to the photographers and get everything photographed and looking pretty. And while I was looking at this product, this box, I noticed that I missed something. One of the images on the back was inverted, right? To make it look from left to right. And the wording was on the bottom of it and it got inverted too. Oops, mistake. But even while I was looking at that mistake, I was making money. How cool is that? Pretty cool, I think. So guys, this episode is going to be an awesome episode for one main reason, and that is I was able to secure funding, and I'm not even a year old. And this has been one of the things that has been bothering me and keeping me from expanding as quickly as I want to. So I've managed to secure a really cool deal for you guys using the same company that I got this funding through. And I'll tell you how to get 10% off the origination fees. Okay, these are the fees that they charge you by the end of this podcast. So listen to it all the way through so that if you do apply, you can actually use the special link with the special offer that we've negotiated for you. And you'll be able to get a discount and hopefully get a pretty good sized loan. So let's not waste even one more minute and get right into the interview. Hello, everybody. I am here with Will Moffett. Will Moffett has been involved with Amazon for about a year and a half. He started as a seller, but he's now focused on funding other Amazon sellers. Will, welcome to the show, buddy.
Manny Coats, thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure.
Yeah, and it's good to actually talk to you again. I actually met Will by accident, actually. We were at an event together, and there was a bunch of tables, round tables, where you had, I think it was about 6 to 8 people were sitting at each table, and Will happened to sit right next to me, or I sat next to Will. However it worked out, but we just started talking, and he recognized me from the podcast and started telling me about his business. And at the time, the business was called Bonolo, and I believe now you guys just changed the name, right?
Yes, we are now Upfund.io.
Upfund, it looks like Upfundio, but it's Upfund.io. Cool. So for those of you that have been listening to my podcast, you guys know that I've been doing this for less than a year now, selling on Amazon specifically. I started in December, so I'm at now right around 11 months. And the issue, and I talked to Will about this, for me has been cash flow because I've grown fairly quickly. But the issue with my business is that, I have inventory tied up. It's on the sea, or it's on its way to Amazon, or it's in inventory, but it hasn't sold yet. And in order for me to order more inventory so I don't run out of stock, I actually have to have the cash to do that, right? You're floating stuff. So it becomes a problem. And I think a lot of sellers run into this as they start to scale up. So I was talking to Will about it. I'm like, man, you know what? The issue that I have right now is that my business is not a year old. Okay, so I don't have tax returns. If I try to go to a bank, they want the last couple of years of tax returns, or they want to see at least a year's worth of history. Even if you go to these other services online that allow you to raise capital, you still run into that issue. And Will said, well, Manny, we can do it with less than a year of history. Remember that? I was like, what?
Yes.
I was excited.
Yeah. That was our same problem, Manny, and we went out to solve it.
Yeah, and so you guys do that. You do crowdfunding, essentially. You have a lot of investors. Tell us a little bit about you and your company.
Yeah, so my name is Will Moffett, Amazon seller. It was pretty cool. Right before my daughter was born, about a year and a half ago, one of my friends told me about Amazon, and his brother was doing $50,000 a month doing retail arbitrage. And I was working pretty hard. I was working like 16 hours a day and at my job at the time. And I said it had to be another way. So when I heard about the Amazon thing, I said, let me try this out. And within 2 weeks, I found my first product. And we all know that's the hardest thing, to pull the trigger on your products, especially your first product, because everything looks like a big blur. And that was before Jungle Scout at that time. So pulled the trigger within 2 weeks. That first product ended up making about $40,000 a month within 1 month and a half. I found, it was a very good, we had that velocity was just extreme. It grew so fast that I had to get funding. So I ended up talking to a friend, which ends up being a partner now with Upfund. And yes, we funded that product and we moved on to multiple products. Went to the Prosper show in February. We were looking for some tips on growing our Amazon business because we wanted to become a $10 million Amazon business, which is really no problem, very doable if I was still doing Amazon. But we talked to a lot of Amazon sellers, and we found that everybody had the same problem as us, funding. We would go to the bank. We have excellent credit. We have cash, but they still wanted 2 years of season. They wanted tax returns. Well, we didn't have tax returns at that time. We were under 1 year of age. In addition, you have to show a profit. So if you plan on going out and spending that money and buying cars and getting those tax write-offs, you can't do it if you're trying to go to a bank. So that's when we said, you know what, we need a funding solution. And we started off with Bonolo.io. And we just switched our name to Upfund.io because it's easier to say and spell.
Right. Yeah. But actually, I like Bonolo. I was like, it's such a weird thing. It sounds like, I don't know, like shoes almost, right? So I was able to remember that. But Upfund's cool.
A lot of people couldn't, though, Manny. Like, I loved it. The team loved it. We just received an email of somebody saying they just started getting used to Bonolo.
Yeah, that's true. Well, it's a cool service, guys. And just so you know, I don't have Will on here by accident. I actually used their service. I talked to Will. I said, you know what? If what you're saying is actually true, right? You can get funding without being a year old. Let's put it to the test. Let's find out if we can actually raise some capital. So we did, right? We put up an offer, and I actually raised $56,194.57, and it was fast. I mean, how long was that? It was like less than 2 weeks before it got to that number. But I want to talk about a few stats here because people are going to be curious, right?
Yes.
How long have you guys been actually doing this, the funding portion?
So the funding portion, we started building in February. We actually started receiving investors and sellers around May-ish. So we're really, the way we're going now, we're very structured at this point. As time goes by, we're constantly building and pivoting and learning more about what sellers need and learning more about what investors need. And we're at the point now where we are able to help both investors and sellers.
How many loans would you say you guys have done? Because you guys are pretty new. You're not even 6 months old.
So we've had over 100 applicants, and we've funded 16 loans. We've also funded maybe about 5 more loans. In those cases, we did not end up issuing those loans because either we found out that it was an international seller, or we found the Amazon seller actually ended up not needed the funds, certain situations like that.
So you guys, you only deal with U.S. sellers, not international?
Yes, at this time, we first started off with international sellers. We quickly found that we would need to do domestically, and it's only because of laws. If you look at Cabbage, Lending Club, any of these guys, it's only domestic, and it's for a reason. But there are ways we are looking to reach out to all sellers. So we're working on it.
Okay. So what's the average loan amount?
So the average loan amount has been about $10,000. So anywhere the lowest has been $4,000. The highest has been you, Manny, which was $56,000.
Woohoo! I said, let's push this. Let's see where we can get. So find out where the limit is. And you guys are just growing. And because the way I understand it is you constantly have new investors coming in on a regular basis. So that pool to keep funding bigger and bigger is growing. Is that right?
Yes, it is growing larger and larger, and we have some special things coming up for everyone. And soon, very, very soon, we should be able to fund everybody automatically, in addition to having our retail investors.
What does that mean?
So that means we will have our own fund where we will be able to actually, if the investors or if our retail investors cannot close your fund, we will close your fund.
Oh, nice. Okay. That makes it a lot easier and faster. Because right now, it's 30 days typically for somebody to go from the beginning of the process, or actually once it's live, they have 30 days to raise the capital from the investors. Then it closes, and then it goes through the funding process. Is that right?
Exactly. Totally correct. And generally, we would close in one day. But Manny, he was the biggest. He put us to the test.
I know. I was like, yeah, how much can we get to, like 100,000? You're like, I don't know. We've never done that. So it was cool. I mean, 56,000 guys, think about this. That's $56,000 that I have right now. It's in my bank account. It's already funded. It's spent, actually. I ordered product. I wanted to get all these funds here so that I can get extra inventory because the Christmas season just wipes people out, right? I mean, it comes and then you run out of inventory very fast, and the whole cash flow thing again. That happened to me last year. December was the first year I actually sold, and I just ran out of inventory. So like the peak times of Christmas where people wanted to order, I didn't have anything to sell. So my numbers would have been even bigger. So this year I wanted to make sure that didn't happen. And an extra 56,000, I 4X that in terms of the retail value. So that's going to be an extra $200,000 in sales by the time it's all said and done. You know what I mean?
That's amazing.
So it's pretty cool. So I asked earlier, it takes about 30 days typically. Sometimes you guys are funding guys fast if they're small. And you said the average loan amount's about 10 grand. What about credit history? How does that work? Do you do this based off personal history or the company history?
So we look at everything, and what we want to do is we want to see the strength of the seller, because again, this is investors' money. And as a company, we have to maintain credibility and accountability. So we look at credit standing. Number one, is the seller paying their bills? Number two, we look at the strength of the Amazon account. Are you able to repay the funds that was used for inventory based upon your earnings? And that's pretty much what we look at in a nutshell. We do have an algorithm that looks at other things, details that will help us create a score based upon the approval or rejection. But in all, I wouldn't say it's heavily based upon credit, because if you're a strong seller and there was some mistakes made in the past, but you are on the right track, and hopefully those debts are being paid since you're making money. But we really lean based upon your account and credibility on Amazon.
Okay, so you're using a customer's personal credit initially. You're not doing Dun & Bradstreet or anything on a company, right?
Yes, and that is something that we're getting into. So
you are? Okay.
That's coming soon.
Do you guys report to credit agencies at this point, or is that coming down the road?
As of right now, no, but it is coming down the road within 1 week.
Okay. Are you guys specifically Amazon only at this time, and is it going to remain that way?
Yes, we are Amazon only at this time, but we do plan on expanding to eBay, Walmart.com sellers, and all other platforms.
All right. So your credit history, you're going to look at that. They submit a credit report to you, if I remember correctly, right?
That's correct.
Is there a credit score that if it falls below a certain point, you're just kind of out of luck?
Yeah, we're looking at 640 right now. If you have a 640 and above, that's good. If it's below, again, I wouldn't say don't apply if you have bad credit. I have to say, when I first started, I had bad credit for some incidents that was beyond my control in the past. However, after becoming an Amazon seller, I now have a 834 credit score. So I understand from being in that experience. I didn't have good credit at the time, but I was able to generate a lot of cash through Amazon, and therefore I was a good bet. So that's what I'm looking for personally, and the team and our algorithm is looking for is do you have what it takes to sustain and build a successful business and pay the investors back? And are you personally accountable to be responsible enough to hold the funds and repay investors.
Right. So you said that you look at their Amazon account to make sure that they have the ability to repay. So what is it that you're looking for specifically, and how are you even looking? How do you even gain access to that?
So just like all the other softwares or platforms you use to check your inventory or check your profit margins, you connect your Amazon account through via API to upfund.io. And at that point, we see exactly what investors see. We see your revenue, your trends. If you have a trending up graph, you look like, which we call a lifetime revenue graph. It tells us that you are doing something right. You're moving up, you're growing. If we see dips, it can be many of situations that happen. But sometimes when you have dips, you go back up. You can tell from that graph, we're learning that, you ran out of inventory or whatever it may be. At that point, sometimes a lot of investors have questions and, why do you have a dip in your lifetime revenue graph or what's going on? They might email us. And a lot of times that might be something that a seller might want to explain in their description when they create their crowdfunding campaign, and just say, hey, I'm looking to raise, $20,000, turning inventory over every 30 days, and I'm running out of inventory, and I'm growing products at the same time, and I need a little help with my inventory situation.
What do you need from a supplier or the factory in order to get all this funded?
Yeah, so this is a legal contract with you and an investor. The investor does not know your physical product. They do not know what you're selling unless you tell them, which we don't recommend. So when you make your campaign, do not put your product there. We don't want Amazon sellers coming on or investors coming on thinking an investor can sell on Amazon and compete with you, or a seller acting like an investor and investing just to learn about products. That's something that we do not allow. And we are invested in you. So we want you to succeed. And so those products are confidential. We do have a small percent of investors that get turned off by not being able to see a product, and that's okay. Out of the 98% of investors that don't care about a product, that just want to know that you are reliable to return the funds, they just want to know that you're on the up and up. Those other 2%, they will go elsewhere.
So you guys internally at the company know the product you need to know because you have access to the Amazon account. The investors have no clue what the product is. They know the category, if I remember correctly. Yes. But if I'm a client and I'm coming in, are you securing the loan on any of the inventory? Do you need to see something you need a PI or a purchase order of something from the factory? Let's talk about those processes.
Exactly. So we will need a purchase order from the factory, legally showing that, number one, that you are actually purchasing a product with the funds that you're receiving. And this is validated with the manufacturer in a product order. And this is a legally bound contract that you have when you agree with the service terms of Upfund.io. So I'm going to explain the whole entire process. When you first log on or sign up with Upfund.io, what you're going to do is you're going to create a timeline. So you're going to plug in some simple things. You're going to plug in, how much money do you want to raise? $10,000. How many units is that 10,000 going to equate to? I'm going to purchase 2,000 units. Your shipping time, lead time, your lead time, and whether that's by air 7 days or by sea 30 days, you're going to add that to the system, and then you're going to add your shipping time. Well, I don't know if I just said that, but product time and shipping time. And so all of that is going to compute into a timeline. And what that timeline is going to do is it's going to tell investors when they can expect their return on investment, and to know that everything is going smoothly with their investment. Because how the consignment deal works is this: the investor puts up the cash for the Amazon seller. And so that investor actually owns legally the inventory until you sell that inventory off and share profits. And then the deal is closed. From that point on, once you sell off that, once you actually create your campaign, the investors come on and fund you. After your campaign closes, then you provide further information, for the credit check, bank statements.
How many bank statements do you need?
So there's going to be 3 months bank statements. And so pretty much, just determine that you have enough funds to cover. And what we want to do is that those bank statements needs to match the funds that's coming in from Amazon, right? So if you claim on your campaign that I'm making $50,000 a month, and you take out or you raise $50,000 in funds, but somebody is lying and they're really making $10,000 a month, that's what we're looking out for. Things like that. So,
okay. And your system, just to add, it has an automated process too, because I remember when I actually approved it to log into my system, into my Seller Central account, it took a little while. I think it took about a day to update the entire year, but I saw it climbing. I saw the graph going from 100,000, 200,000, 500,000, finally a million. You guys can see that very clearly. So lying would be a little bit kind of difficult, wouldn't it?
Well, who knows what people can do out there?
Yeah, that's true.
And we don't want to find out. But yes, and that was pretty amazing. Yours, you're pretty good, Manny. Yours was the longest we've ever seen. So
a lot of units.
Right.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead and continue with the process.
No problem. So yes, you're just going to submit those documents. We review it to make sure everything is accurate and legit. And then we approve it through the system. And then the funds are automatically directly transferred to your bank account within 2 to 4 business days.
So what's it cost the average person? How does that work?
So right now, the seller can choose between 10%, 15%, 20%, anywhere between 10 and 25%. Currently, we have been doing this for free. We haven't been having any fees to the service. So we are charging now. So these rates will change based upon the strength of your account. So we get 4%. And if you choose 10%, the investor would be 10%. So it'd be a total of 14%. You pay $0 within that lead time with your manufacturer and that shipping time. So let's say, for example, you enter into your timeline. It's going to take my manufacturer 30 days to manufacture. It's going to take another 30 days to ship by sea. And then we allow 14 days for Amazon to actually accept your product when it reaches the fulfillment center. You have 74 days of no payments. So the goal here was to make it so that your validated products, no money has to come out your pocket. Once your product starts selling, then the profits are then shared between you and your investors. And just like you get paid, they get paid. And then your money doesn't have to be held up on a sea or in China.
Okay. How do you get paid? How's the payment get to you guys?
So the payment, it's split. So you don't pay us directly. It's paid through the crowd. So if you're raising, let's say, $30,000, and then the 3% or 4%, whatever we're Upfund is charging.
Is it 3% or because you said 4%? Is that a negotiable thing or is it based on volume or?
It's adjustable based upon the strength of the Amazon seller. The more risk, the higher.
So what's the range typically?
So range can be anywhere between 1.5, 2% to 4%.
Okay.
So that 4%, 3%, whatever that may be, is taken out of the fund. So it's all going to be calculated in. So it doesn't come from your pocket. It gets we get a cut of the fund, and then the money is transferred to you.
Okay, so the first payment is coming on.
It'll be 74 days, depending. If you have a lead time of 7 days, the timeline is going to adjust. If you're shipping by air in the 7 days, it's going to adjust. So it changes based upon your situation.
So on the 74th day in that example, your first payment would be due?
Yes, first payment will be due, which is 10%.
10% of the entire fund, okay.
Mm-hmm. And then 2 weeks later, it will be 30%. The next 2 weeks, 30%. And then the final, 30%.
Okay, and then you're fully paid off.
And then you're fully paid off.
And then how are these payments actually getting to your company? Is the customer wiring this over? What's the process?
All right, so this is going to be through ACH, bank transfers. So when you connect your bank account to upfund.io, and that's how we send you the funds once the investors invest, and it's automatically deducted based upon your payment schedule. that you agree upon and investors agree upon. You both agree upon it, and those payments are made at that time.
So they're automatically made if a customer, for whatever reason, I don't know if this would happen, but if they're like, you know what, I want to pay this off early, can they do that?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sure.
All right, cool. So 14%, is that the minimum? I mean, you're talking about 10% as the minimum, but you got, let's say your fees at 4%. Would that be the minimum percentage you're going to pay is 14%?
That would be the minimum. At the same time, these things are going to adjust through time. We have a lot of opportunities and things going on in the background. And believe it or not, if you look at On Deck and, a lot of these other lending institutions, you're easily looking at 30%, 50% to get a loan, some even up to 100%. And that's, we're fighting to keep the prices low for you guys. And that's the thing that a lot of people have to understand is that, we as previous Amazon sellers, we know what we Amazon sellers want. But it's a little different when you have investors that require something. So these might be the same investors that invest on Lending Club's platform or On Deck. And they're used to getting a larger percentage on Deck. So if they come on our platform and say, okay, well, I can get 16% from On Deck or 20% from On Deck annualized, why would I want to give 10%? Or why would I want to give 12%? And so that's something that we're always negotiating and trying to fight for the Amazon sellers to get the lowest percentages there.
So I'm not going to talk about your percentages because they vary from 1.5% to 4%. But so let's talk about the base rates. 10% you said, and then it goes up 15, 20, and then 25, right? Is that the top end, 25%?
Correct, yes.
So give us an example. Why would somebody want to spend more than 10% on a particular campaign? Why would they do 20%, let's say, versus 10%?
So there's situations that happen. Like, for example, there has been situations where we have a lot of Amazon sellers campaigns up, and it gets a little competitive. So let's say we have 5 campaign cards up, and investors are looking at all the sellers, and they're all invested in one seller because they like that one seller for whatever reason. They might have an uptrending graph, or they have an outstanding description, or it might be a pretty picture. I'm not sure what gets these investors going. So if there's 5 Amazon sellers, and let's say everybody is offering 10%, all 5 are offering 10%, and then you have Amazon seller 3 that's offering 15%. Well, all the investors are going to run to the the Amazon seller offering the 15% ROI. So they're going to close fast. And that's what we've seen. Like one time, I didn't look at the ROI that was being offered, and I saw a lot of strong Amazon sellers, and I saw a little bit Amazon seller that was a little bit weaker, but they were getting like all the investors, and they closed in one day. And I couldn't figure it out. I was like, why is this happening? And then I looked on their profile. I saw 15%. And I was like, oh, all the investors are going to the 15%. So if you have an urgency to get more inventory or close faster, then you can email us and say, hey, we want to increase our ROI to close faster and get more investors. That's totally up to you.
Yeah. So it makes sense, right? You have an investor that wants to maximize his return on his investment. So if there's somebody on there that needs 10 grand, if there's 2 companies that need 10 grand and one of them's offering 15%, one's offering 10%, I mean, it's a 50% increase automatically by going to the 15% guy. So I can see how you would get funded a lot faster and probably have a lot more people that would actually fund it. So you can go for a higher amount. So it's good to know. You mentioned that you guys have access to the Amazon account. I'm going back to this because I know a lot of people might be thinking right now, well, man, I don't want them having access to all my account, but it's a limited access account so that you guys only have access to the sales data of their account. You don't have access to everything. Is that correct?
Correct. Sales data only.
Okay. Just that and the ACH account, so you can automatically pull the payments out of the bank account as needed.
Yes, yep, based upon the schedule, and that goes directly to the crowd.
Have you guys ever had anybody that's missed the payment? I guess that if it's coming out automatically, that wouldn't happen unless there just wasn't any funds in there.
Exactly, yes. No payments have been missed, 0% default.
0%. That's good.
and we're just starting out, so.
Yeah, that's
so
excellent.
we want to keep it that way, and we're constantly improving and growing and making our algorithm better. Yeah, we're pretty excited. It's been an amazing journey.
Okay, how do you guys secure your investment?
So we have a pool of investors that a secret sauce. We have a pool of investors that all understand the concept. They all love the idea, and they all just want to invest in Amazon sellers. In addition, make a return. We get a lot of investors. So a lot of our investors are they're investors that invest in many platforms. So they invest in Lending Club, On Deck, and a lot of these other institutional platforms that allow investors to come in and invest. And so a lot of them, they see us and they really love the idea and the concept, and they want to try it. So, people might come in and they might throw in 20,000, they might throw in 10,000. Some say, I want to test it out, and eventually I want to do 100,000. So we got a lot of those guys, and they're closing campaigns. I think right before you, Manny, before you raised the 56,000, 3 people closed right before you. I think you started on Monday. On Friday, 3 campaigns closed, and I think one was for 22,000, and the others was like for 15 and somewhere around there. But yeah, so I mean, if we didn't close those, we would you would have closed a lot faster.
Okay. No, that's awesome. I probably should have reworded the question. That's how you get your investors. I was more curious about how you actually secure the loan on the product itself. Do you do anything with the purchase order? Are there any UCCs, anything else that you guys do at this time?
No. So pretty much just to fulfill the contract, because it's a legal binding contract, we have to receive your purchase order. That does not go to the investor. That is kept on file. And yes, that's.
If somebody raises $40,000, do they have to buy the exact amount of that inventory that was raised, or can they go over that amount and add their own funds to make it an even bigger order?
No, it has to be based upon the agreement. So if you originally wanted to sell, if you wanted to purchase 5,000 units, then you must purchase 5,000 units. There is times where we will be, we may be able to adjust. Like if you're like, I raised too much, then I was like, okay, well, we can scale it down to like 3,000 units because we don't want you to have extra cash that you don't need. Yes, that would be it.
What would be some of the mistakes that you see people making when they're writing their pitch to investors? And let's back up real quick so that people understand this, because you brought it up earlier. You're writing this as somebody who's looking for this investment. You're going on there and you got to picture yourself and your name, and you're writing what you want this money for. So what are some of the mistakes you've seen people do that just kind of kills their whole pitch?
Yes. So somebody might line, and this was in the beginning before we knew what investors wanted to see, but we will just allow any campaign to go up, and it won't have a picture. It'd be like a couple of sentences, and the graph will be like trending down. and investors, they won't invest in that. And we'll like receive emails from investors like, hey, who is this guy? Like, I like them. However, they don't have a picture, and I want to invest in somebody where I can at least see them. It's like, okay, like to all Amazon sellers, they don't even know your product, and these guys are investing in you. And this is one thing that, we are actually vetting the Amazon seller. So we only put quality Amazon sellers or allow them to raise funds on the platform. So at least you can do is give the investors a picture or write up a nice description and, tell the investors what you're doing and what you're using the money for, and make it pretty. I know there was one time where we had a few sellers, and, the campaign cards are lined up next to each other. So one seller was getting 0 investments, and the person next to them was just getting investments every day, all day. And the email, like, what am I doing? What do I need to do? And I said, well, you might want to, just be a little more innovative with your profile. So they actually did just that. They came back, they made it pretty, they added colors to their profile, they did screenshots of their revenues and pasted in the description, and it was looking very nice, and investors jumped all over it. It closed the same day.
What would you say is the number one thing that investors like to see that maximizes the funding potential?
I thought it was all about looks. Like an uptrending graph, right? Mm-hmm. But we've actually had occasions where there has been a graph that wasn't so uptrending, and they still closed it within one day. That's something that I didn't understand, but it had to be an awesome profile.
And what made it awesome?
We had a bunch of campaigns, so I really can't remember what that was. But if you're very personable and you're being upfront with people and you're telling them, like, hey, I'm an Amazon seller. I've been selling for 2 years, 1 year. I generate X amount of dollars per month. I'm really tight on inventory, and this is my projected revenue, and this is where I am now. If you see the dips, if you look on a graph and you look at the month of April and you see that dip right there, that dip was from when this happened and this happened. But if you look at the increase in the month of September, this is where I am now, and this is in this X is where I can be if you invest in me.
Now, what about repeat customers? Have you had anybody come back already? I know you guys are pretty new. Has that happened?
Yes, all of our investors come back.
Sorry, no, I didn't mean investors. I mean customers like myself.
Yes.
Has there been enough time for people to come back?
Yes, we've actually funded sellers twice so far.
Okay, all right. Do you find that the second time they come around, they're able to raise more?
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Okay. Now, the funds that you're raising, is this for one particular brand, one particular ASIN? Does it matter?
Campaigns are based upon one ASIN. And you can raise for that one ASIN, the parent, and all the children. So when you select a product for your campaign, always select your strongest product, because that revenue on your revenue chart is what the investors are going to see. So if you have like a parent that's doing $30,000 a month, and then you have a child that's doing $5,000 a month, you don't want to select your child, because the investors are going to be like, oh, they're only making $5,000 a month, but you're saying I'm making $30,000 a month. So you always want to do the parent or whichever your best seller, and then raise for all the children.
I'm glad I asked that question. That's super important then. So somebody wants to come in and put their best selling ASIN in there so that you actually have the sales volume. Because a lot of people come in and they'll say, well, I'm selling $100,000 a month. But if it's all coming from one particular ASIN and they're trying to raise capital for an ASIN that only does $2,000 a month, you have to actually enter that ASIN into your system, right? So it's going to show a smaller amount, and getting funded is going to be difficult.
Exactly. And so there's going to be two graphs that the investors see. They see your lifetime graph. So if you are $1 million seller, and so they're going to see the trend in you with the $1 million. And then the graph below by your timeline, your timeline, you're going to have a product graph. So that's going to be the trends of the current product that you're raising for.
All right. What if somebody wants to be an investor? I'm going to flip this around. Can people sign up?
Yes, you can. So investors, they sign up and submit some simple information. So because of banking laws and regulations, investors do have to be verified. So we have to verify that, there's no a lot of things can happen, like money laundering, different things. So everything has to be verified that is a legit investor, and there's no nothing funny going on there, and they're approved right away.
Any final things you wanted to add in regards to the funding side of things? Anything we didn't cover?
Yeah, another cool thing is that I know there's a lot of big sellers, and I know there's been $1 million sellers where they actually manage their own investors. So if you have your own investors and they're pouring money into you to fund your Amazon business, well, you have to personally manage those investors. You can actually leverage Upfund to manage those investors for you. So let's say that you're raising $100,000 and or 200,000 or whatever, we can possibly make an exception for you if you have your own investors. Leverage the platform. Create a campaign and tell your dad, your mom, your cousin, your business partners, all your investors, like, hey, come here. We already agreed upon a 10% or 20% return. Well, your money is now automatically sent to you. So I don't have to worry about managing you. You don't have to call me all the time and ask how's the product doing, because you can go on Upfund and check that out for yourself.
That's awesome. And guys, I highly recommend the service. I used them myself, raised $56,000 and did it very quickly, got funded, and I'm using those funds now. So, and this was after I was told that I would not be able to get funding from just about everybody because I haven't had a year worth of experience with my business. So yeah, Will Moffett, friend to all Amazon sellers looking to raise quick cash to fund their business. Thank you so much, man, for coming on the show. So there you have it, guys. How awesome was that? You now have a place you can go to get funding even if you do not have 1 year of selling experience on Amazon. And we all need this. And right now, guys, at the time of this podcast, we're still in November, and you could get a loan and get funded and potentially order some stuff via Express Air and get it here in time for Christmas, right? Assuming that your supplier has this stuff available right now. Okay, because it takes about a week to get the products in. So here's where you can get a discount. Okay, we've negotiated a special rate. It's a 10% discount on the origination fees. So this is going to save you some money. In order to get this discount, you can't go directly to Upfund. Okay, go to ampmpodcast.com/Upfund, or you can go to the ampmpodcast.com website and then click on our tools section, and we'll have a little a section in there on Upfund which will have a link. But if you actually join their service, if you sign up through our link, it's an affiliate link, okay? We're going to get a commission if you actually go through that link. You'll also get that 10% discount on the origination fee, and that'll save you some money, okay? Again, you have to use our affiliate link. If you go directly to them, you're not going to get that discount. Again, go to ampmpodcast.com/Upfund. Okay, or go to ampmpodcast.com and click on the tools link, which is at the top right, and then you'll see it there. But guys, just do this. Get a loan going, and remember, your loan amounts can get larger as you go, and use other people's money to generate income, right? That's what all the biggest and richest people do. Honestly, Upfund is a game changer for a lot of sellers, and I know for me, that $56,000 that I raised is going to turn into about $200,000 or more in terms of retail sales that I'm going to be pushing this December, this Christmas. I already had that money in my account. It's already been spent, and yeah, it's going to be awesome. So go sign up right now. Don't waste even one day. Get in there before the flood of people that listen to this podcast go in and start eating up all the investors' funds, right? There's only so many people that can fund big time. So jump on it right now.
You've been listening to the AM/PM podcast hosted by Manny Coats. For more information, insider tools, and to get the resources mentioned in this episode, visit ampmpodcast.com.